Hello everyone. So today's chapter is Mahavira and Buddha, the great preachers. The 16th century BC was a period of religious revolution in various parts of the world. It was an age when great religious teachers, philosophers and thinkers lived. Their ideas made revolutionary changes in all aspects of life. Zoroaster in Persia and Confucius in China preached new doctrines. In India too, the 6th century BC saw many changes. As many as 62 religious groups developed in the Gangetic Plains, out of which Jainism and Buddhism had a deep impact on the Indian society. So during 16th century BC, Jainism and Buddhism, along with 62 other religious groups, developed in the Indian subcontinent. Causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. The Aryan religion had become quite difficult for the people to understand. So that was the first reason, that the religion that was going on from, and that was called Aryan religion, that became difficult to understand. Animal sacrifices had raised a reaction in people. So there was a culture of sacrificing animals that had raised questions in people. Rituals had become very costly, and there were a lot of rituals and that were costly. Magic, charms, and spells had begun to dominate religious practices. Sanskrit, the language of the Vedic text, was not understood by the common people. They were even not permitted to read the Shastras. So, this was another important reason, that Sanskrit was not understandable, was not understood by majority of the people, and they were also not allowed to read the Shastras that were written in their holy books. The caste system had become very rigid. It divided the society into high and low. The Hindus ill treated the Shudras. So that this was also a reason that people wanted a change in their religion. The caste-ridden and ritual-ridden Aryan society was showing signs of decay. Social and religious degeneration had set in the society. So, in the Aryan society of that time, there was a lot of rituals were done in their worship, and there was also a very rigid and very improper caste system, which led to the rise of new religion. It was in this atmosphere that saw the rise of a class of wandering teachers who believed that right conduct, among other things, the practice of ahimsa or non-injury to living beings, was one of the main ways to attain salvation or freedom from the cycle of life and death. Vardhaman Mahavira and Gautama Buddha were the two most important reformers of the 6th century. So in that society where the ritual was very popular as a form of worship and caste system was very rigid, there came some preachers like Mahavira and Buddha who preached people to do right conduct and to practice ahimsa or not to hurt anyone, and they believed that this was the most important worship and the main ways to attain salvation or moksha or eternal peace. So now we are going to see Jainism. Vardhaman Mahavira was the founder of Jainism. There were 23 other religious leaders before Mahavira. According to Jain religious texts, they were called the Tirthankaras. Mahavira was the 24th Tirthankara and also the last one. So Mahavira was the last one of the 24 religious teachers that were called Tirthankaras. Now, life of Mahavira. Vardhaman Mahavira was born at Kundala Gram near Vaishali in Bihar in about 540 BC. His father Siddhartha was the chief of the Jhatrika clan of Kshatriyas. His mother Trishala belonged to the powerful Licchavi tribe. So he was born in a good family, in a noble family. At the age of 30, Vardhaman gave up the life of ease and comfort. He left his palace in search of truth. For 12 long years, he did hard penance and meditation. At the age of 42, he gained true knowledge. On this, he came to be known as the master of Kevala Jana, or true knowledge, or the Mahavira, that is the great hero. He was also hailed as the Jina, or the conqueror of the self. That is why his followers are called Jains. Mahavira died in Pava in South Bihar at the age of 72, when his fame had spread far and wide. So he left his home and searched for the true knowledge for 12 long years, and at the age of 42 he gained true knowledge and he spread his messages, and his followers are known as Jains, or the self conquerors. Now, what were the teachings of Mahavira? The main teachings of Mahavira can be divided into two parts as given below. Three jewels. The main aim of a man's life is to attain salvation or moksha or freedom from the cycle of life and death. This can be achieved by following the three jewels, that is called three ratnas, namely right faith, right knowledge and right conduct. So if a person wants to attain moksha or to make himself free from the cycle of life and death, he should do three things. That is, he should believe in right thing, that is right faith, he should have right knowledge, and he should do right conduct. Five vows. Mahavira taught that his followers must take the following five vows, namely not to injure life, not to hurt anyone, not to steal, not to tell lie, not to own property, and not to lead an impure life. So this, anyone who believed in Mahavira has to do these five things, and it was a compulsion for them. Now, spread of Jainism. The monastic order of Munis set up by Lord Mahavira helped to spread Jainism in Rajasthan, Western India, Bengal and Central India. Many people in India became the followers of Jainism. At the time of Mahavira's death, the number of his disciples had risen up to 14,000. Later on, many kings adopted it as a state religion. So when he died, there were around 14,000 people who had accepted or embraced Jainism, and later on many kings also adopted and made Jainism as their state religion. Jain art and literature flourished under their patronage, and so those emperors, those kings worked for art and literature of Jains. There are many Jain temples in India. The Dilwara temple at Mount Abu and the Palitana temple at Saturunjaya hills are famous among these. So they also made temples. Two of them are given here, which are very famous. The religious books of the Jains are the Angas and the Purvas. So their message, or whatever the preaching of Mahavira, it has been compiled into two books called Angas and Purvas. After the death of Mahavira, his followers were divided into two sects, Swetambras and Digambras. So when Mahavira died, his followers divided into two sects. One was called Swetambras and the other was called Digambras. Now the Swetambras wore white clothes, whereas the Digambras did not wear clothes at all and led a life of self-torture. So Swetambras, they started wearing white clothes and leading a simple life, whereas the Digambras, they abandoned clothes also and they led a life of self-torture. Though Jainism did not become as popular as Buddhism, yet it survives to this day with millions of followers in different parts of India and the world. So till today there are many followers of India, and Jainism is a religion still surviving in India and also some part of the world. Now, what was the contribution of Jainism to Indian culture? Growth of vernacular language. Jainism has made a significant contribution to vernacular language, particularly Kannada and Gujarati. Mahavira himself preached in Andhra Magadhi so that even common people could understand. So, the languages that were spoken in some parts of India or in a small place, they became popular. Art and architecture. Many artistic monuments were created by the followers of Jainism. Mount Abu in Rajasthan is famous. It's famous for Jain temples. The famous caves in the Udaygiri hills of Madhya Pradesh and in Ellora in Maharashtra are fine examples of their architecture and sculpture. So many architectural benefits happened due to Mahavira and Jainism. Humanitarian service. The teachings of Mahavira led his followers to pay more attention to humanitarian services. Many schools, hospitals and inns were built. So service of humans, service of God creatures was practiced, and as a result many schools, hospitals and inns were built.